This one kid, he was staring at this tabernacle, and he just was like, something's in here, and something's alive in here. I just don't know what it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Crab and the Cross podcast. I'm your host, Mary Rose, and first I just want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a blessed day with your family, with your friends, with your dog, not your cat, and that you just take some time to really appreciate the good things in your life. Speaking of good things in my life, today I'm sharing with you my conversation with a very dear old friend, Santonio Hill. We've known each other for over a decade, and we have both made the extremely irrational decision to dedicate our careers to working in ministry, and in particular, ministry with teenagers. We laugh, we share stories, we commiserate. It's very interesting mission territory working with the youth of America. The good news is that every teenager eventually grows up and is no longer a teenager. So there is hope, but certainly your prayers are very needed to help people transition from teenager to adulthood. I don't think anybody actually enjoyed being a teenager. If you look back at that time of your life, you're just like, ugh, cringe. So for some reason, we just thought it would be great to always be with people in that state of life. But no, seriously, Santonio's done awesome work on college campuses, in inner cities, and as a teacher. And I know he has touched a lot of lives, and he's just got a great heart for mission. So I hope you support him, and I also hope you support the podcast, which you can do by liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and rating and reviewing. And now my conversation with Santonio Hill. My guest today is Santonio Hill. He graduated from Catholic University with a bachelor's in philosophy and has spent the past 8 years as a missionary in various capacities. He's worked for Focus, Anthem Philly, and now he is the assistant director of recruitment for Vagabond Missions. He's also a husband of almost 1 year and just welcomed his first child in May. So, Santonio, thanks for joining me.
Mary Rose, it's a pleasure. It always is.
Awesome. Yeah. And we're in the studio today, and we have your lovely wife and son sitting off into the corner. And so we're hoping that he doesn't make too many controversial statements on the mic.
You never know. I mean, he can be noisy, from time to time.
Yeah.
Just want to be heard. When he was born, actually, his lungs, he wasn't breathing. So so every now and again, he just wants to let it himself know and everybody else know, hey, I can breathe now.
Yeah.
And I'm loud.
Not just breathe, but scream.
Scream. Oh, he wants to let the world know.
That's good.
I love him.
I'm glad.
I love him.
I'm sure you do.
He's so great.
Of course. Wow. So I want to have you on because I want to talk to you about your experience as a missionary, your life as a missionary. You've been on college campuses, and then now, would you say your work now is more, I don't know, what would you say? How would you describe the population that you're serving right now?
Yeah. So with Vagabond Missions, we work with teens who are in underprivileged neighborhoods and cities across America. And so I personally work with teens who live in Pittsburg, within the Hill District, and a couple of other cities a couple of other neighborhoods within Pittsburg. But my main area of focus, I would say, is the Hill District within Pittsburgh. And so this is a neighborhood that's for sure poverty stricken, a neighborhood that has gangs, homelessness around, drugs going around. And it's a lot of good kids that live in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
But if they go outside and if these are the things that they see, they're like, okay, these are my options that I have in life growing up. Right. And they don't see any other options, around any opportunities that can get them away from that mess. Yeah. Because sometimes they'll have parents or a grandma or auntie or whoever who can be able to speak truth into their lives, but sometimes they don't.
Sure.
And they'll just kind of go off and do whatever and get into whatever.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. So is this a neighborhood where like these families have been for like generations, or is this more they got moved into this area like?
Yeah, been there for generations for sure. And like, and that's the Hill District.
Yeah.
And so it started off as like such an amazing neighborhood. It's like one of the first birthplaces of jazz in the country. Yeah, it's like a rich history.
Huh.
There's a famous playwright. I'm forgetting August Wilson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
he's written so many like.
Yeah. I've read. I can't remember what it was, but I read one of them.
So Fences, like
Fences,
Denzel,
that's the one I read, yeah.
Denzel Washington right now is like doing a remake of a lot of his playwrights, and he's like bringing them to film. So it's really cool. So yeah, it started off as like just an amazing place, but then yeah, through different times and situations that happen in the course of America,
yeah,
it just kind of started getting ran down.
So it's a place you would say like started off well and then went downhill. It's not like it's been just generational poverty necessarily.
I would say it is now.
Okay.
It is now, but like it wasn't there were like certain parts of it that weren't always like the prettiest,
Sure.
They got this spot called Sugar Top, which is like the cream of the crop in the Hill District, which is like they had lawyers there. Like all your esteemed professions.
Yeah.
They would live at the richest part, they call it Sugar Top.
Yeah.
Of the Hill District. But now they're all gone. And that's been like gentrified out. And there's also been like the city of Pittsburgh just took away a ton of land from the Hill District. Yeah. And like wanted to create things for the downtown part. And so they just, it's been an ugly mess of the way that the people in the Hill District have been treated.
Yeah.
But we're there to like, I would say Vagabond Missions is there to like give hope to these teens, to the parents as well, and whoever else is around, the aunties and uncles who are around, and to allow them have them know that like there are people who care about their young ones around this area. We want to make sure these teens are like seen, heard, known, and loved. And also we are a Catholic organization, so like we're gonna have opportunities for them to have encounters with God.
Right.
But it's always an invitation, never an expectation. So we never it's never like, well, if you don't.
Right. Hey, do you want a free meal? Well, you got to come and pray the rosary with us first, or else you're not getting it.
You can't get a thing. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it's,
So do you and your wife live in that same district that you serve?
I do not.
Okay.
We do not. Yeah.
You live together.
Yeah, because we live together, so we do not. Well, it's funny because like when I first moved to Pittsburgh, we were just engaged.
Okay.
And so I think about it as differently sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that the community looks at you as kind of an outsider? Like, oh, here you're this person who you don't live in their same, neighborhood. You don't have the same experiences as them. Like you're kind of coming in. Do they have that perception of you as being almost like high and mighty in that sense?
I think it depends on who you talk to.
Yeah.
When I first showed up, there's this preacher guy. Mm-hmm. He's amazing. I love him. Everybody calls him Rev.
He's like a pastor or just like a street preacher?
He's a pastor.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think he's like going for a office position or something like that.
Okay.
In like political world. But he when we first showed up, he I don't know. I think it's interesting. So it's a predominantly black neighborhood, and I'm black, and so he loves the fact that I'm trying to help out, and he's like, "Hey man, why don't you come work for me?" And I'm like, "Well,
oh, interesting.
I got this thing going on, but he, definitely was like, okay, you're here now. I see like that vagabond is here for a little while." But like you'll move out. Everybody moves out. You'll move out too.
Yeah.
So you don't really have any place here. But then I talked to some of the parents or like caretakers of these teens, and they're like, "Praise God, we got you. We need good role models. We need people like you." Some of the teens that we work with, they all like every neighborhood has their own slang, and so certain slang that you're not allowed to say because you're not from the area.
Really?
Yeah, and so they'll maybe like, "Oh, well, hey man, you where you from? Maryland, Delaware? Where you from? Wherever.
Yeah.
It's an off name brand next state or something like that. They're like, well, you can't say that. You ain't from around here.
Wow.
And so, but like they still, you know, they still show love.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. Well, it's interesting because I think, you know, there's sort of like a trend. I don't know how long the trend's been around, maybe for, 40, 50 years of like, people go on mission trips or whatever to third world countries. They stay there, maybe a week, maybe a month. And, the missionaries have this like amazing experience and they form these relationships with the people that they serve, and then they just leave. And, they I'm sure always cherish that experience and then go on, do whatever they're gonna do with their life. But, I try to imagine being somebody who lives in that community, who sees these like bright-eyed missionaries come in, every month, and they're so excited, and then they form these bonds and they leave, and then the next one leaves, the next one leaves, and like, that's got to be, I don't know, kind of a semi-traumatic experience in a way.
Yeah, man, that's a topic that like I'll think about from time to time.
Yeah.
And like I think you're right. I think it can be depending on like what the mission trip is. Like if missionaries just come in and they like kind of bulldoze the area, and don't like really leave in like a lasting imprint of like faith on the individual, then I think it can be very traumatic. And if Americans just come and they're like, all right, we want to eat, we want to see all your culture, like dance for me, or like like what's your best food? Give me that. And it's like, well, this takes years to make, or like we've been growing this for a long time. It's like, I want it now. You know what I mean? It's like, well, that's how America is. It's not how other cultures are. It's like certain times for celebration and such. But then sometimes certain cultures like want to celebrate you, so they like they want like you're welcome in
they
a
want to
beautiful way.
All what they have to offer and whatnot.
Exactly. But I would say like, so my wife has gone on a mission trip for a while now. She was like one of the first people to go on this mission trip. It's Mustard Seed Communities down in Jamaica.
Oh, I think I've been there actually.
Oh, get out.
Yeah, because I did I did a mission trip in Jamaica like in college, and we went to a bunch of different sites, but I believe Mustard Seed was one of them. But what's cool about places like that is that at least like it's a permanent site in the city, and then they just have volunteers come through. So there's the stability, but then there's also the kind of moving pieces of like the volunteers. Right.
And so people like my wife, she's gone there for like 4 or 5 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
And so she has kept up relationships.
Oh, that's cool.
With certain people that she's been taking care of while going to certain kids. And so it's just like that is something that's so unique, where like these kids, they look forward to seeing her and other people who go on these trips like annually as well.
Right.
Sometimes like the priest who started these trips, he goes like multiple times a year, or at least before COVID. And so like he had a really good relationship with these things. So I think it's interesting. You can get some real like shady, shiesty mission trips, but then you can get some like amazing ones. It's like, wow, this is really sustainable. It like actually helps all parties involved.
Right.
Not just like, oh, I go to Africa and hold a baby and I feel good about myself. And then like, now I leave,
Take my selfie.
Yeah, it's going up on the ground, on my Visco.
Hashtag good person.
For sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, trips like that, they're a little, I don't think the best potential that they could be reaching.
So was Vagabond, I know they're all over the country, right? But were there missionaries prior to you in the Hill District of Pittsburgh before you came in?
I was a part of the opening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, class.
Okay. So they don't have a set bias against or for like Vagabond. Like you were their first experience of that.
Yeah, hopefully that was a good experience.
Well,
I still work with the kids now too. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say are the biggest needs of people like that in that community? Because I think, when you hear that this is a community that's impoverished, that, deals with gang violence, that deals with drug addiction, a lot of people will say, well, you're a Catholic missionary, you're going there to evangelize, like these people have bigger problems than lack of faith. What are you doing to make peace between the community or to get people out of addiction or whatnot? But I don't think it's fair necessarily to like say, you have to neglect problem A and only care about problem B. But like from your perspective, what would you say are the top issues that the community like needs assistance with?
That's a really good question. I haven't even like given that too much thought because typically we just try to care for the whole person.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, maybe that's a better approach then, and not compartmentalize.
Yeah. No, we definitely try to care for the whole person. From the teams that I have worked with, none of them have a father figure.
Really?
And so that's not everybody. That's not everybody in the Hill. Some fathers are around, but the teams that I have seen and worked with the most, their fathers aren't around. And so I would say that's like, and yeah, I was looking up some, not stats, but like just some things and characteristics about like, what do children miss out on when they don't have a father figure growing up? And it's like confidence, like certainty in making a decision, or things like that. And just like direction in general. But I would say that. So there's this one team that I'm working with right now, who I love dearly. I would say those things that I just named, he doesn't have any of those things, and his father's not in his life either.
Yeah.
And he's a great kid, really great kid. He's a good kid. He's not looking to do anything crazy. He's not smoking. He's not drinking. Not out here acting all willy nilly out here in the streets. You know what I mean? Wow, I just said willy nilly.
Is that some of the slang that you're not allowed to say?
Yeah, that's why I said on here now, because I know anybody gonna hear it. Willy nilly.
We'll bleep out the willy nilly. People be like, I thought they were gonna have some like really cool slang, but no, they just say willy nilly.
Yeah, but I would just say that we really try to care for like the whole person. So this team that I'm talking about now, he just graduated from high school, and he's trying to figure out like what he wants to do with the rest of his life, what he wants to do in his career. And so when I asked him, he's like, I want to be in the NBA. It's like, whoa, that's
same.
No. Yeah, I can, I relate to that. No, but he just doesn't play basketball, doesn't play on a team, or like, he's not like making like necessary steps. He doesn't have like preliminary things in place for him to have like NBA aspirations. So I'm like, well, let's break that down. Let's like really look at that. Like, now, do you really think you'll be able to make it to the NBA? You're not playing every day. You don't have a trainer. You're not in AAU. You're not, on a team, yada, yada. And he's like, okay, I want to be a professional gamer. It's like, okay, that's more realistic. But like, now let's look at that again. And like, let's look at the stats of what you got to do, all this money you got to pour into it, yada, yada. And he's like, still maybe on that. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. If you make the money, let me know, because I'll help you out. But no, that was supposed to be a joke, but yeah, no, I'm trying to help this team with like,
a career path.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so like, we're looking at things like trades, and he's also thinking about like computer technology. And, I just want to give him the tools, because like you can preach to a kid till you're blue in the face, be like, God loves you, this, that, and the third, yada, yada. And they were like, okay. But if you haven't like done anything for these kids either, like these teens, they need to like experience love by form of action, because people will say things to them all the time. And, you can like promise you this, I promise you that, but nothing ever happens.
Right.
So like a lot of times I would say these teens need the proof. Like, show me that you're really there for me. Show me that I can actually depend upon you, because people come into my life all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because you said since a lot of them don't have a father figure, they don't see any males who have a strong career that they can idolize, other than the ones they see on TV who are in the NBA, and they, or I don't know, I guess on YouTube or whatever you watch gamers. I'm like not into video games at all.
Twitch.
So Twitch, okay.
Yeah.
Twitch streamer, I guess that makes sense. But I mean, yeah, they don't even have like a concrete living, breathing example to say, oh, okay, this is what it even looks like for a male from my community to have this like, career that I could aspire to.
Right. I mean, unless, there's barbers who, and I was honestly looking at barber, like what they make the other day.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. They make money.
Oh shoot.
They can make like $5,000 a month. We don't got to talk about that right now though.
Yeah. Yeah. But that is interesting, though. I mean, you're always gonna have hair.
So yeah, no, for sure. Unless you're me, when
we still gotta get the beard trimmed up, right?
Every now and again, I touch it up. I let it just go. I'm kind of a wild man nowadays. But yeah,
John the Baptist.
So yeah, I mean, there's barbers, you know. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that they may see, you know, other types of careers,
right?
You know, because I mean, there's like a Family Dollar there, you know, but like they won't necessarily see like being a store clerk as like a career.
Yeah. So you mentioned there's this pastor, this preacher that's like in the district. Is there any other presence of like churches there or like, you know, spiritual outreach and whatnot?
So they do have a few. Yeah, there's a few churches, but I would say the biggest two is this one church called Macedonia, and then the other church that Rev is a part of.
Yeah.
And then there's YMCA. They do a little bit of outreach as well. But I mean, yeah, and I honestly haven't been super connected with the Macedonia Church and YMCA. Now, Rev, he has an amazing after-school program. He'll like give high school kids jobs, and he's essentially running like a summer camp.
Oh, wow.
So during COVID, when all the schools were shut down, he will open up his facility, and he would allow kids to go to school there, use their computers, stuff of that nature, to like give them as much aid as they need, that he can offer.
Yeah. Do you find that the teens that you work with have at least like a basic understanding of the gospel, you know, Jesus Christ died for our sins on the cross, rose from the dead, or is it very new to a lot of them?
It's so fresh.
Really?
Yeah, it's almost like when you go to a store and you peel back open like a nice like orange, or like it's like, ooh, it's so fresh. Or like, you know what I mean? It's just
yeah.
It is. There's one. Every now and again, you'll get a kid who like is a little familiar with the gospel story, but I would say majority of the time, these kids are like, Jesus, who? You know, like there's teens who've walked into churches and they've been like, what is this? Like, who is this guy?
Really?
Like, this is strange.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, it is strange when you think about it. Yeah.
A dead man hanging in the middle of the room.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's not an attractive thing.
Not to most people.
Yeah. I mean, it is when you understand the meaning of it, but just to the eyes, it's not. I mean, I don't think it's supposed to be attractive. It's supposed to be shocking in a way.
For sure. Right? Yeah. And so those are like beautiful opportunities that missionaries do have to be able to like, okay, because teens, they don't always want to like, okay, so we have like this program called Breakout. And so Breakout, we share a meal, we play some games. And then at the end of the night, we will like have a 5 to 10 minute reflection upon like some aspect of the gospel.
Yeah.
A lot of times teens, they will pull out their phones, you know, or they'll like doze off, or they'll like daze off, or just like not necessarily pay attention.
Right.
And so they're not listening. They hear us, but they tune us out. They're not listening, you know? And so we don't always have an opportunity to bring them into a church just because of certain circumstances. And all of the teens that we work with are not Catholic too. That's
yeah. Well, yeah. But would you say, I mean, given what you said about their, you know, some are totally baffled by Christ on the cross, they're probably not even of a Christian background. They're just kind of.
Right. Yeah. Just kind of whatever, you know? Yeah. Like whatever floats my boat at the time. And so willy-nilly and floats my boat. Here we go. But to have that opportunity when a teen is so like startled and they're like, whoa, what is this? You know, it's a striking image to see. And so to take that opportunity to be like, so this is Jesus Christ. And the reason why he died and the reason why he's here like this is because
Right.
You know? And so those are, I haven't had that opportunity to have a moment like that with a teen yet. But we had, so this past Easter, we had 7 kids coming to the church.
Okay.
Which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Not just in Pittsburgh, but like around all of our underground sites that we have. And in total, we brought in over 150 kids into the church just through Vagabond, which is like amazing. It's a beautiful thing. But right now, but I haven't had the opportunity to walk with a teen through like RCIA yet.
I got you.
But there's a kid who really, so here's an interesting story. This one kid, man, so we went, that same priest that I was talking about who goes down to Jamaica for those mustard seed trips. Yeah. He got us tickets to go watch a Penguins hockey game. We got like box seats, free food. We met a Hall of Famer.
Wow.
Like a lot of like cool things.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't watch hockey, so I'm like, cool, who are you? But like the fact, and none of the kids knew who he was either. They're like, cool, who are you? But they saw his ring, and they were like, let me see that ring.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, you want to try on my ring? Anyway, that's a side story. But so that day before we went to go watch the hockey game, we took all the kids down to a chapel, and his name was Father Chris, this priest. And so Father Chris was like, hey guys, let's just take some time to like thank God and like praise him for these tickets and this opportunity that we have here. And so we did, and then everybody got out and left when the prayer was over. And this one kid, he was staring at this tabernacle, and he just was like, something's in here, and something's alive in here. I just don't know what it is. And we're like, Father Chris and I, we heard him say it, and we were blown away.
Really?
We're like what? This kid has like such a spiritual sensitivity.
Yeah.
That's like really, like I grew up in the faith. It was like, what's that gold box sitting in the middle of sitting in the back of the church back there? You know what I mean?
Right.
And here this kid is like, wow, something's in here and something's alive in here. And so Father Chris is like, yeah, it's Jesus. You want to say hi?
Wow.
And so once again, all the kids were like heading out, but this one team and Father Chris, they decided to just like kneel down in adoration for like the next like 5, 10, 15 minutes or something like that. And so he also went on a Steubenville retreat very recently, where he also continued to like feel inspired and like encouraged and like felt an encounter with God in a way, small way, but in a way that was big enough to provoke something in him, which like is huge, because now he wants to go through RCIA.
Wow.
And so that's, I mean, I love this kid. He's so like quirky, you know what I mean? But like for him, it's interesting. So his father's also not in his life, but like for him to not have a father figure like his father around, he's like, he has a certain level of confidence that I don't see in many other kids. And I think it's because he's loved well at home. Yeah. You know, his mom is very involved in his life. Yeah. And like he's cared for.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's opportunities where like kids don't even know who Jesus is, but then like you get a chance to like introduce him, and then like boom, they're like, all right, yes, I'm in.
Right.
Like give me more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I taught high school theology for 8 years, and it's pretty similar where, I mean, you know, I mean, I guess I could probably bracket out the population and say there's, you know, maybe half the kids who come from Catholic background, and there's half who don't, and of the ones who don't, probably half have like no religious background. Like, okay, I remember once I had a student raise his hand. This is not even relevant to what we were talking about, but we were reading something in the gospel talking about Jesus, and he raised his hand and he's like, so Jesus never messed around with girls? And he was so serious. And I was like, what? I mean, and it's funny that he even said it that way, because I could see someone saying like, oh, wow, Jesus never got married. Like, I could see that, you know, but he's like, he never messed around with girls. I'm like, what?
I mean, that just shows you like this kid's worldview, you know, like what his home life is like, and what he sees, like who's raising him. Maybe it's TV, maybe it's music. I mean, you know?
Sure. Yeah. But it's so interesting to like put myself in that position of like, what would it really be like if I had never heard Christianity, of Jesus Christ, or even really heard about that there's a God, you know, a God who created everything. Like, what, you know, it's almost like you're operating at, and not it's not their fault, but it's almost like you're operating at like a lower frequency. Like, you know, what if, you know, I only saw black and white and I never saw color, you know? Isn't
that The Giver?
Oh, it is.
I thought that's where you were going. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to set you up a little alley so you can talk about it more.
Well, actually, yeah, that's a great book, great movie. But I mean, I'm just speaking in an analogy. You know?
No, for sure. I mean, you are handicapped. Not handicapped. Wow, man, my language is not the greatest today. No, but I think that you are being handicapped when like everybody has access to talk to the creator of the universe, you know, and like there's things that's written on like your heart that you really want and you really desire so badly, and like things that you like, you know, because we're all human, we have like human frailties and we have holes in our heart that we try to fill with other things, and we don't know that it's like truly God is going to fulfill us at the end of the day, you know. And so like to not be able to tap into that thing that has created you,
Right.
you know, and like knows you so well, more than your parents, and more than your best friend, or more than your siblings or whoever. You're working with a handicap.
Yeah.
And to say like, oh, I'm happy.
Right.
You know, I'm going out through life and I'm happy. It's like, but how? Right, but like, how long does that last? Like, how often is like something that can easily just come and like take us, like knock us off our happy chair?
Right. No, for sure. But it is interesting though, because, you know, we talk about how, you know, every person has a desire for God written on their heart, and, you know, everyone's thirsting for love and union and peace and joy and all of that. But a lot of times people's first encounter with the faith doesn't bring that satisfaction, you know, in the same way where it's like, okay, if I'm hungry, like that first bite of food, no matter what, is going to be amazing. Or if I taste something good that I've never tasted before, you know, it's going to be immediate, like, oh, I like this, you know, whereas, you know, these kids, maybe they haven't prayed before, they haven't really read the Bible before, but the first time they hear it, they're not like, oh, wow, this is what I've been searching for. It's just sort of like eyes glaze over, you know, okay, this is boring, you know. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think it's because it's sometimes in these kids' lives, they think it's like a fairy tale. They're like, oh, this stuff is fake. It didn't really happen. You know, you telling me something happened 2,000 years ago. I don't know, like, you know, if they can't necessarily, like I was saying, you know, like people tell them slick stuff all the time. And so like evidence is the best way to like convince them, the best way to the heart. But at the same time, they are, like, if you tell a compelling story, they're zoned in, you know? And so like a life that they lead, a life that they live, you know, it's not the most glamorous lifestyle. And then when you talk about Jesus, you know, like Jesus Christ was persecuted. Jesus Christ, you know, he was wrongly convicted. You know, it's like, oh, wow. Like a lot of black people are wrongly convicted in America. Yes. Jesus was killed and he didn't deserve it. Just like how black people are killed and didn't deserve it. Yes. You know, and so like they start to see certain similarities. They're like, wow, Jesus grew up without his father after a while. Yep. Just like how I grew up. So they're like, okay, now I see like a little bit of relatability with this Jesus character you're you know, giving me. And you say he's God, but like, that's crazy. But like, give me more, you know, they see certain similarities and like, tell me more about this guy. I'm interested. And so you certain things, you know, you got to know your audience.
Right. No, that makes sense. And that actually brings me to something else that I want to ask you about, because, you know, you said you serve a predominantly Black community. I think once I was looking at the Vagabond, you know, just looking at all their missionaries, and it looks like most of them are not Black. And, you know, I don't know, would you say that first of all, like most of the communities that you serve, would you say they're mostly like communities of color, or is it, you know, the whole spectrum?
It's the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, but in Wichita we have a primarily Hispanic population that we serve. In Greenville, North Carolina, we have a mix of Black people and white people. In just one spot in Pittsburgh, it's like kind of like a mixed bag as well. Blacks, whites, whoever, you know, whatever ethnicity these teens are. But yeah, I mean, you're right. So part of a recruitment officer, just the assistant though. So I'm not for
just
the blame.
The assistant, yeah.
No blame on me.
Who's the guy we should blame for everything?
His government name is. But no, I mean, it's nobody's fault.
No, of course.
But yeah, that's part of what I'm trying to do now is like diversify our missionary but diversify our missionary employees. You know, so I would absolutely love to hit up a lot more HBCUs. So that's on the agenda that we have for this fall and spring. Going into some more. There's like a Texas Women's College. Oh. Or I think that's what it's called. And it's like primarily Hispanic population. And so that's another place I would love to go to. Hawaii. That's another spot. No, I'm playing. Yeah. But like, how awesome would that be if I go to Hawaii? Like, all right, you know.
Sure.
Hawaiians.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is kind of an interesting, I don't know if I want to call it a problem, but I mean, do you think that the missionaries who are, let's say, white and they're working with a primarily Hispanic or primarily Black population, do you think that's becomes a hindrance? Again, not placing blame on anybody, but do you think that kind of creates a wall between them and the population they serve?
You know, I think it all depends.
Yeah.
I think it all depends if, you know, on that missionary. Like, if that missionary understands who they are, they're like, yeah, I'm white. So what? You know, like, I'm still here. You know, I still care. And you can be relatable, and that's great and all. You know, you can have all the tattoos you want or like whatever. But like, if you are a prayerful human, like, holiness is attractive.
Yeah.
And so like, you can, I think that principles like transcend through like race, you know? And so like, if you are being authentically you, like, even, there's a few missionaries that I know, and all that 150, like that over 150 kids who came into the church, that's like all white people, you know what I mean? Like, doing that for these teens. And so clearly, like, it does work. Like, it doesn't matter what your skin color are, but like, is there a wall? You know, I think that like, there's a certain level of trust that can be built up quicker if you are a person of color, you know, where like, it may take a little bit more extra work, because the kids in the Hill District, like that whole like neighborhood has been wronged by white people for generations, you know?
So?
So with, like redlining maps, you know, that's one of the things.
Yeah.
Another one of the things is like the city just literally taking away their neighborhood, like just bulldoze houses over, literally.
Wow.
Yeah, to like build arenas and whatever else. And so it's like, okay, we really can't trust. And then just what's the other thing? The gentrification. You know, people come through and they're like, this looks nice. I think I'll buy it.
Yeah.
I'll pay you like 5 times what your house is worth to get you up out of here, and then you'll move wherever. I don't really care.
Right.
You know, and so like, and I get that's like business stuff, but it's also like gentrification is like nasty because it uproots families. Yeah. You know, and so in those kind of ways, and so like, white people aren't trusted initially when they're walking around, because it's like, what do you want? Like, what are you up to? You know, so a little suspicion.
Sure.
But I mean, as soon as you break that ice and let them know, like, hey, this is what I'm about. Like, this is what I want to do. It's just be here, just love up on you. It still may take a little bit of trust, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, it eventually, like, breaks through.
Right. Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's a problem that is more common in the U.S. than, let's say, for example, places in Africa, like where missionaries go. Like, I came back from this pilgrimage, and I met this priest who's just awesome. He's like 80 years old, but he's from the Netherlands, and he spent 40 years in Uganda. And I asked him, I was like, did the people, like, were they mistrustful of you? He's like, no, like, they just love, like, I mean, he's a wonderful person, so of course he's like easily lovable, but he said they welcomed him right away, and they were so excited, and they, you know, they knew he was a priest, and there just was an immediate like rapport there. But which, I mean, maybe is just because there's not that same history, you know, negative history.
Right. Yeah, no, could be. Could be. That is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I would say, like, even, it's interesting, like, even being Black and being a missionary for these teens, you know, because some of these teens have faced trauma, you know, like, or they don't trust, like, their fathers anymore who may be Black, you know, I am even, like, who are you? Like, no, I don't necessarily, like, want to talk to you, you know, or, like, I don't want anything to do with you. Like, don't get away from me. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Don't invite me to your little church event. I'm not trying to go to that. Sit in some basement eating spaghetti. You know, like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. Right. And so these guys, you know, they have such hard lives, and like like the walls around their heart is so, you know, it's like layered upon layer upon layers of bricks or whatever. You know, it's just like you're not penetrating through there, on your own accord. Obviously, with God, anything can happen. So yeah, it's not just, you know, I'm Black and so it's gonna work out super well. Although it's easier, you know, it's way easier. The kids trust me a lot more,
right?
You know, because there's one teen, he's so funny. He was talking. I forget how we even got on this topic, but I was like, whatever. Like, he was making fun of the missionaries on like our space and the van that we have. So we have a white van that we run, like we drive around and we pick up teens, but it's only after making contact with them on the ground first.
Okay.
And so like we'll walk around and like, hey, you want to play basketball? Hey, you want to hang out? Hey, you want to whatever? And it's like, okay, cool. We built a relationship. And it's like, hey, you want to come to our program? We can come pick you up. And so we come driving around in this white van asking for teens, like, hey, you want to hop in?
You want some spaghetti in the basement?
And so so it's so funny. I was like, man, whatever. You still here, ain't you? Because he was like, y'all, making fun of us or whatever. I'm like, you still here, ain't you? He said, the only reason why I got in that white van that looked creepy was because I saw you driving Santonio. And if it was anybody else that wasn't black, I would have been like, no, you good. You can keep on going.
Interesting.
And so it is funny. It is so funny. That I mean, sometimes being, of the same skin color and ethnicity does help.
Right.
But not all the time. It doesn't always necessarily matter.
Yeah. So is there a Catholic church in that area, in that neighborhood?
Yup. So every site that Vagabond sends missionaries to, we always partner with the church.
Okay.
And it's in the neighborhood. So that way, when it's time to have that spiritual nourishment on Sunday, or sometimes on a weekday, we have a place that we can go, and a priest who's like willing to invest.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. Cool. Well, so if somebody's listening and they're like, you know what, I want to be a vagabond, how can they get in touch with you?
So you can email me at santonioh@vagabondmissions.com. You can also go on the website, vagabondmissions.com, and look up, I think it's under Meet, it's like Who We Are or Meet Our People, I think it is. And you'll see me there. I'll look, what am I wearing? I'm trying to remember. I think I got a beanie on in this photo.
Oh, no.
What's wrong with the beanie?
Okay.
I don't remember, but you'll see Santonio Hill. Look for Santonio Hill. Look for assistant director of recruitment. That'll be I. And just send me a little email.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to get a hold of me.
So do you travel a lot for the job now? Like going to places to recruit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I travel a good bit. Furthest I've been has been California.
Okay.
And then we live in Pittsburgh. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I travel. I think we're trying to hit 40 colleges this year.
Wow.
So it's going to split it between the director and I.
Okay.
And so I hit 20, he hit 20, some will hit together. But yeah, I travel a good bit, which I love traveling. But now I got a little one.
Yeah.
I love traveling less.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get a opportunity to bring my wife, which is cool. She's came on a few trips. She went to the California one.
Nice.
That was nice. Miami.
Hey.
That was nice. All the vacation spots,
University of Hawaii.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Working on it.
Cool. Well, anyways, it's been a great conversation, Santonio. I definitely would love to have you back someday, and we wish you all the best of luck with all that you're doing.
Yeah, knowing that I was coming to Maryland, I said, let's do this in person, not over Zoom.
That's right. I know. We're done with, after the pandemic, nobody wants to see anything on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm like, nah, let's do this let's do this live.
My guest today is Santonio Hill. He spent the past 8 years as a missionary. He worked for Focus for 3 years and... Did you touch something? What the fuck is that? Wow. No, it's his fault.
How do you stop it?